G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the 4.5% of you that are ladies, according to my YouTube statistics. Dougville here with another StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm cast. We're coming at you from Derelict Watcher, one of the new maps on in the ladder pool, which is I found to be a really interesting map. It's there's a few things, we'll go over them very shortly, but let's introduce our players. Starting up at the top right-hand side, here is our Red Zerg player. He's currently the Vice President of BenQ, or perhaps he plays for Virtus Pro, who is, of course, sponsored by BenQ. It is Slivko. He's a really good European Zerg player. He's quite well known for, well, just mainly for droning up. He's done really well at some of his IEM appearances recently, or not recently, it was a little while ago, but joined up with Virtus Pro after being with, I believe it was Roxkiss for quite a while. And yeah, he's made some decent showings in quite a lot of the European leagues and some of their small tournaments and that kind of thing. Hasn't really made a massive splash on the scene or anything like that, but is certainly someone who you don't want to underestimate at all. So that is going to be our Zerg. Down at the bottom left-hand side, we've been featuring him in a couple of casts just recently, mainly because I really like how he'll do some different things. Playing for WiLD Multi-Gaming, it is Breach. He's from Hungary. And yeah, he's been around for quite a while in the Brood War scene. I must admit, he was in the Brood War scene, but because it was more European Brood War, I actually had no idea about this guy. But I tell you what, if I had have known at the time when Brood War was the cool thing, I probably would have liked to watch some of these guys' replays. But anyway, he's known for some really, during Brood War, he used some sort of interesting sort of tactics, like using units that were rarely ever used, using you know, skills and that kind of thing that are rarely used, and he has sort of brought that forward into StarCraft 2. Has been playing, I believe it was random quite initially earlier on in beta and that kind of thing, and then has switched over to Terran, and it utilizes mech quite a lot. In fact, all of the games that I brought to you guys here on the channel have been mech games for Breach, so we'll keep an eye if he's going to go in that sort of direction. Slivko, he's going to start us off with a very simple sort of play. It looks like we had a 16-16 on the gas in the pool there. Of course, the hatchery goes down straight away, wanting to get that economy into shape. The gas, of course, comes out. You need that 100 gas just very quickly here to get the metabolic boost going for those lings. You know, if you're not prepared for, well, I guess something like this, like a bunker rush with a Reaper on the way, you can fall into a bit of a trap where if the Reapers come out, they get a couple of kills on drones and lings, you can put yourself in a really, really troublesome position. So Breach is going to start us off with a little bit of sort of forward pressure right now. This kind of play doesn't necessarily get a massive amount of damage done. And, you know, the Reapers, they don't do massive damage to buildings or anything like that. Slivko very cleverly throws a drone into the extractor just straight away there, and it looks like he's trying to get this drone. I'm not sure what was going on with that drone, but builds another spine crawler just off to the side, throws the other drone into the extractor as well, cancels this other one. Wow, really nice micro here from Slivko to keep these drones alive and not actually lose any of them here. Very low surface area on that bunker just due to the fact that he did build it just in that position where you actually have very low sort of surface area across to the sides there. So Slivko does fend off this attack, but is forced to make a lot of lings. See all these lings here? Slivko would have actually wanted to have around about 4 to 6 of these lings instead of getting a grand total of almost 10 there. In fact, it is 10, I should say. So he's sort of lost a couple of drones. This sort of pressure here, it doesn't necessarily have to put you way up on the workers kill tally. We can see that there is only one worker killed, but what it does do is it sort of it's a pseudo kill of some workers there, in the fact that there are a lot of lings out when there really wouldn't have wanted to be from Slivko. So we'll see how Breach is going to transition out of this. As I mentioned, he does like to do a bit of mech back at home. It looks like we've got a factory just about to finish up. The reactor does finish up now on that rack, so we are going to get at least a couple of Hellions out, or perhaps we'll see some transitions into Hellbats, which are a very, very popular thing in the TvZ Euro scene. It has made its way into the NA ladder as well, which has started to cause a little bit of strife in some of the hands of Zerg players that like to drone up, and suddenly there's a couple of Hellbats dropping inside their mineral line, roasting up all the drones. So it is it's a pretty common strategy, which we may see coming in here from Breach, but at the moment he's trying to get some really good damage done. Nice micro to get that hurt Reaper out of the battle. They're going to just slowly micro back, and effectively, if you've got some good micro here, the Reaper should be able to get out of there without too much trouble. But with speed now completing here for Slivko, he's going to be able to take care of at least, well, I thought he was actually going to kill both of those, but they do escape to the high ground. With the vision from the Zelnaga watchtower, it looks as if Slivko is actually going to lose some of these links here, and he tried to hold some of them down on the low ground just to try and just sort of catch the Reapers if they were to jump down when the other links came across to the top, but wasn't able to get there. This Reaper will probably die. I don't think he's going to get too far, but it looks like, in fact, wow, nicely done. Nicely timed by Breach. Gets these few Hellions out. They're going to push back across the map, and what you do is, this is a very common thing yet again, is you pair up these very quick units. They weren't necessarily sort of the best combination, like Roaches will easily deal with this sort of combination of units, but what they do is they're very quick. You can get across, you can get some scouting going, and you can easily deal with the normal sort of 7-minute lings that come out of most Zerg players when they try and defend against Hellions. So looks like Slivko is going to have to deal with these Hellbats, a couple of them just popping out now. The first of the medevacs also on the way. There was a Viking at first for Breach, but it looks like he's getting a little bit more damage done inside the natural base here. Not too many drones just as of yet, but will he be able to get some of them? They're stacking up just near the spy crawler just to the back there, but he's sort of stuck between a rock and a queen hard place right now, because the queen across to the side has been able to fend them off, and it looks like the Hellions and the Reapers still. There's 4 of those Hellions alive. In fact, has he lost anything there? There, finally loses a Hellion there, but getting inside the main base right now, and a little bit of just a sort of a micro deficit there, I suppose you could say, from Breach, because back at home, it looks like he was getting his medevacs prepared. The first 2 of those Hellbats now on the way. 4 of them all done, out on the ground, ready to defend. A Viking now making its way across. This Viking, you sort of look at this and you think, well, what exactly is the point of this? Well, the whole point of that is to clear the road. He's going to plow the road just to make sure there is no detection for the Zerg to scout out that this kind of drop is coming across. Normally at this sort of level, you would actually sort of expect that a Terran player is going to do something like this, and he certainly will once he gets inside, sees those Hellbats up there and says, uh-oh, there's a couple of those out, we're going to be careful of that. So now inside the main base, as you can see, Slivko a little bit low on the drone count up in here, but down at his natural, looking quite decent. At the third base, he's also got quite a lot of drones here, and we'll see how well he can defend against these drops, because they are on the way, and the drone count up at 66, but we'll see how many losses Slivko takes here as the medevacs now slowly make their way in this one. I'm not sure what that's doing, but here we go. Drops inside the main. He gets a couple of drone kills there. He gets at least, yep, gets a couple. They stack up quite a lot. And now at the third base as well, does a reasonably good job there. 22 worker kills in total. May need to lift these 2 guys up and get out of there as quickly as he can, and he does so. And now as we see another drop now heading down towards the natural, this is the kind of thing that Zerg players dread dealing with in this matchup right now. As we said, most of the ladders over in EU and over in NA, this has become a bit of a thing as well. So Slivko does handle this relatively well, but has lost so many drones. 22 drones. He's now down to 56 right now, building on a large total. 6 more on the way. He did hatch a couple more, but his upgrades are coming along. He's got the Infestation Pit, and we can see that the Baneling Nest is available as well. So we're probably going to transition into a probably just a Ling Bane style here. We're going to add in some Infestors as well. So harkening back to some of the old days of Ling Bane Infestor here for Slivko. So something which you don't see as often in this matchup too much anymore, but we can see the Breach continuing on with his mech play. Back at home, he's got a couple of factories up and running, a starport now on the way. Double upgrades now also being produced by those double armories there as well. And Breach is just, these Hellbats have just waddled their way across, and this is going to be a very deadly situation for him. The drone's going to try and escape that way if they can, but Breach is wisely splitting up those Hellbats, and he's just tearing them apart. As you can see, roasted drones there for dinner. That should be pretty good. And Slivko finally comes through. He's going to try and clean this up, but there are still 2 Hellbats there. Can easily deal with those Lings. It looks like they are right-clicked onto some of these drones, though. Trying to find the last couple of drones to kill off there. Has a total of 39 drone kills right now. Slivko has no real there's no real static defense in the back of the main base or anything like this. Sometimes some players will throw down a like a spore or something like that just to protect the drops coming in, like to try and shoot down the medevacs. Then they'll have a couple of spines ready to go, but he's not bothering with that just at the moment. Going to quickly go up to the hive tech. The spire is also on the way. We'll probably see some of those ultras come out from Slivko very soon. This is sort of a very common way to try and play this particular matchup, is to jet up those upgrades as quickly as you can. 2-2 now on the way for Slivko. He's going to get some links inside the natural base here, scouts out what's going on, sees a few tanks here. We'll be well aware that you know, that Breach is a player who loves to do a bit of mech. We're going to have around about 5 of those factories together, and he is continuing to harass here. No real way to stop these Hellions just at the moment, but I believe we've got some. They haven't actually come out yet. I thought I saw Infestors on the production tab, but Slivko, he will have to deal with the mech, and now in Heart of the Swarm, as we've mentioned in quite a few videos before, it is very difficult to mech unless you get a lot of damage done right at the start. You need to really limit the Zerg's economy, try and make sure that they don't get too far ahead of where they normally are at this kind of stage of the game. And, you know, Breach has done a pretty good job of that. It looks like he's going to try and burn down some of these queens if he can. Nice little bit of micro to keep those hurt ones at the back, but unfortunately does lose one in the end. And now we can see that he's going to try and go for the throat there with a couple of those lings. He's going to be burnt up maybe, but no, he goes for the little creep tumor that was there. Took that one down, and we can see that now we've got Swarm Hosts on the way. Great Aspire is now morphing in as well, and a couple of those Infestors have now popped out. So Slivko is going to have a little bit better defense against those Hellions. Not going to try and let them get too much more damage done, whether it be with a fungal growth or just trying to trap these guys. It will be very advantageous for Slivko to cut these down, because it's really weird, but Hellions can be a good way to deal with Swarm Hosts. Sometimes you can see some people, they'll sort of dive around the side of where the Swarm Hosts are launching their locusts and actually get some snipes off on those, but Slivko, he actually was a little bit surprised there behind the smoke vents there. The Hellions were hiding, and Breach has split up these Hellions quite nicely for the most part. We'll see if he takes a fungal in the face, dives away from a couple of them. The Infestors getting burnt up, but so are the Lings, and the Hellions also getting some really good damage done. Wow, is he going to be able to kill off some of these? I'm not sure what my computer is doing, but it's going a little bit spast right now. And he does get most of those Infestors. Very nicely done here by Breach. Just if you can try and downsize that Infestor count, try and limit it so that you don't have to deal with that a little bit later, then it can be quite a really good situation here. So Slivko, really weirdly, I want to say, is going into Broodlord Infestor, a very old school kind of tactic, but I'm not sure how well this is going to go against a large mech contingent from Breach. We can see that Breach is now adding in his +3 to weapons. We've got +2 on the armor also being researched right now. A couple of Vikings also on the way. In fact, he'll have the option of bringing in some Ravens as well, which would be quite helpful. But Slivko, this very odd sort of army. Normally what you'd see at this point, when a Zerg identifies that there is mech coming their way, you want to have a lot of Swarm Hosts. We're talking like upwards of 15 Swarm Hosts. You want to get some Vipers out on the field as well. You need some buffet buildings, such as some you normally see like Evo Chambers just sort of out on the map in this sort of position here, so that the Vipers can eat them up, get some energy ready to go. Then you'll see things like Abducts and Blinding Cloud. Mostly Blinding Cloud is the best way to deal with mech, but as we can see, it looks like Breach will identify that those Broodlords are out here, and I'm really interested to see how this is going to go, because Breach, he has the option of getting out some Thors, which, with their high-impact payload mode, just absolutely tear apart Broodlords, and right now Slivko is just struggling to try and keep these 4 bases operational. He does have 83 drones right now, looking pretty good, so he does have, you know, he's got his 8 gas guys is coming in. He certainly has a potential to add in some Swarm Hosts and some Vipers, but as of yet, we haven't really seen it, apart from this one lonely Swarm Host down here in the ground. Heroes in a half shell, Turtle Power. That guy is just sitting there by himself trying to siege up, well, basically nothing. I'm not exactly sure what this is for, but we would like to see a few more of them. And as we can see, back at home for Breach, we've got the +3 weapons now done. Switching into high-impact payload mode are these Thors. Tanks on the ground, numbering a pretty decent total right now, up to a total of 8. We've got 16 Hellions out on the field. He's trying to get some more damage done with these, but can't really push into the Broodlords, because unfortunately for those Hellions, they can't shoot up. and it looks like Slivko is going to try and he's going to take a 5th base up towards the top side of the map here. Infestors, Lings all making their way across here. It looks like he wants to try and push across to the 3rd base, but I'm not sure how well this is going to go, because Breach has got this excellent position behind a couple of these orbital commands, a planetary fortress as well, and that means that, you know, Lings are going to get absolutely annihilated in this sort of position here. So Slivko, a very questionable sort of position right now. Looks like he will be able to defend against these Hellions. Some great Fungus on top of around about 6 of those Hellions there. Does lose quite a lot of his Lings in the process though, and these Infestors, they're going to be very careful right now, because some of the Hellions still alive, but it looks like we'll get a few more Fungals down. Should be able to burn down the rest of those Hellions, and it looks like, well, some backup Hellions now making their way inside. Breach going to look for the kill on some of these Infestors, but a Fungal saves the day for the moment. The Infestors will escape, and we'll see that Breach will have to fall back for the moment, but he has identified that Slivko is looking to push towards the top side here. He's going to, most of his attacks are probably going to come in this direction, where he's going to try and keep himself in a position here to defend this this 5th base up towards the top. We can see the units now slowly starting to make their way up. Would not be surprised to see the Broodlords possibly move across that way as well. But again, really questioning this army coming out from Slivko, just because of the fact, there we go, we finally got a Viper coming along, but because of the fact that there are a few Vikings now starting to make their way onto the field here for Breach. He's now got a total, wow, he's got so many Vikings right now. We've got, how many is that? 18 Vikings are now out on the field. Add to that the anti-air damage of the Thors. They do huge amounts of damage. The last few Hellions will be cleaned up here, but Breach, he's got that mech army together. He's got his +3 to armor just about to pop out. +1 on ship weapons also making its way through. And this is just going to be a very, very deadly push coming out here from Breach. A maxed out mech army against a total of, well, 2 Vipers out on the field here for Slivko. This is going to be a very interesting engagement. Despite the high Broodlord count, like, we've got 11 Broodlords out on the field. Not too bad at all. They don't really have any upgrades though, and nor do they have much protection. Without those Vipers, without the, you know, without Swarm Hosts on the ground to try and take care of Thors and these kinds of things, it's going to be a very, very tough game here for Slivko to defend not only this 5th base, as we can see that is going to go down within seconds, but I would say this 4th is also probably on the way out. He's got a lot of protection in the anti-air arena here with some of these spores here, but they're not going to last too long. Siege tanks will be able to take them out. Thors even can just blast apart spore crawlers very quickly. And despite some of those, the Corruptors now making their way out, Slivko is going to have a very, very hard time defending against this push. He's got the high ground vision here. Breach has got all this vision here with his scans now coming along. Vikings starting to make their way across. He's split them up for the most part. We've also got these Ravens here as well. A blinding cloud does go down, so he's going to try and make use of that right now. But it looks like Breach is, he's still got just so many units up in the air. The Infestors down on the ground, getting some decent Fungals off of the Broodlords, throwing down those Broodlings on the tanks. So it looks like Slivko will be able to deal with the ground army, but will he be able to deal with everything up in the air? The Queen's doing a pretty decent job, but as we can see, wow, these point defense drones worth their weight in gold right now. So many of those Queen shots being blocked off by the point defense drones. And Slivko, well, he won the battle on the ground, but I mean, he's still up against a Mech Terran who has 4 bases right now. And, you know, interestingly, Breach doesn't actually have too many factories at this point. He's got 6 factories out, which, you know, it's not a tiny amount, but it's not the normal sort of amount you'd see at this point for 4 bases. But he's got all these orbital commands. He can build up his army very quickly right now. We'll probably see him switch into a little bit of a higher Thor count. As we can see, 4 Thors have now just popped down. Hellbats also making their way out as well. And, yeah, Breach is just really starting to move into this very strong, it's like the strongman army, consisting of the Thors, the Hellbats on the ground, and this is just a perfect composition. You can see that the Thors, you know, what do they deal with quite easily? Anything in the air, most units on the ground as well, and the only thing they don't do well with is a few Lings on the ground, but, you know, we've got Hellbats on the ground. Interestingly, I found out yesterday that Hellbats can stand behind Thors and then shoot through them, and then still decimate Lings, so that's quite an interesting thing to see. You've got like a bouncer in front of you while the Hellbats are at the back just blasting away at everything. One thing we'll also allude to is the creep spread of Slivko, a little bit further behind where you'd expect at this point for a pretty high level Zerg player from the EU scene, especially EU Zergs. They are quite good. But this creep spread, there's no connection between the main sort of arena and his fourth base. He has, of course, nothing up here towards the fourth, and nothing. He's slowly making his way down towards the bottom side of the map, but there is not really too much there. And now we can see the Breach is looking to take advantage of this. SCV is killing off a creep tumor there. Not every day you get to see that, but here comes the big push. A maxed out Breach. We've got a total of 12 Hellbats on the ground, 11 Thors. There are also 13 Vikings up in the sky, supported by these SCVs, which are available not only for tanking, but also for repairs. It looks like Slivko has certainly got his work cut out for him right now. We've got a lot of Broodlords up in the air. In fact, it's not as many as I thought it was. It's 8 Broodlords up in the sky for Slivko right now. They've got 2-1 on their upgrades. Blinding Cloud goes down, meaning that these Thors cannot shoot at the Broodlords for now, but the Vikings up in the air certainly can. Point defense drones as well added in for extra benefit there. Wonderful usage of those spellcaster units there. The Ravens are just so handy right now. Able to throw down the point defense drones. That takes out a lot of the damage that comes down to these Corruptors here. Not only that, but also the Queens as well. And it looks as if Slivko is going to fall here with the Infestors on the ground. No energy available for them. The high impact payload Thors are just going to rip apart those Broodlords in a moment here. If they don't, if the Vikings don't already do that, and it looks like they do. Queens on the ground going to fall down slowly but surely. And I could expect that is going to be it. Yep, there it is. No GG, but an end to the game there from Slivko. He's just, I think the composition, like, I'm not sure if he just hasn't really dealt with mech too much, or whether he just wasn't, you know, he sort of didn't exactly have the upgrades running for what he needed in that kind of situation. Like, we had 3-3 on those ground units there, but we didn't see any Ultralisk. We saw a tech into the Broodlords, and it was just kind of this weird sort of mishmash of techs there from Slivko. So no real Viper presence, no real Swarm host, no static defenses, anything like that. And if you're going to be dealing with mech, you certainly need all of those things, as I'm sure anyone will see. If you watch Maker versus Moonglade from WCS in a Premier League, there's a great example of that kind of situation there. So hope you guys enjoyed that match. A really interesting one. However, Slivko falling down to Breach. Being added in for extra tankiness on those Ultras here. They're going to be really shaping up to be big units here in this late game stage here. The big question will be, will it be enough damage to deal with all of these Immortals? We've got 3 Immortals coming out.